Hi, this is Jan from Let's Build Shopify, and today I have another hands-on tutorial for you where we will improve a product page so that it would only display the product images that belong to the selected variant. So if you have seen my video on implementing these color swatches, you may already recognize the product page, and if you haven't seen that, you may find that right here. But now you can see that I went ahead and actually added some lifestyle photos of me wearing that t-shirt in different colors. And now you can see that all the thumbnails would show up at once, but actually the preferred way would be that they get filtered based on the selected color. And that's exactly what we're working on today. So let's get started. All right, so first of all, I went to the product editor and you can see here I have all the product images, and down below we can see all the different product variants. And each of these variants has one featured image assigned to them. So for all the red variants, I have the red t-shirt, for all the blue ones, the blue, and so on and so forth. But I also have one variant, it's at the bottom, it's the black one, where I don't have a featured image. And we will also implement some fallback logic for this case, but we will get to that later. And now that we have a featured image for every variant, I also needed to find a way to group all the product images of a single color. And one way of doing this was giving them the exact same alt text. So you can see that all the red images would have the alternative text red, and all the blue ones would have the alternative text blue. And basically this could have been anything, so it could have been awesome red t-shirt or something, but it needs to be 100% the same for every image of a single color. Alright, so now that we've completed the basic setup, we still need to find a way to select these thumbnail elements in order to filter them at all. And therefore we need to find them in our theme files. So I jump over to the Shopify theme file editor, and a good place to start is the product.liquid. And as we start to read through this file, we can quickly note that the actual content lies within a section that is called product-template. So I move over to the section folder and open this file that is called product-template. And somewhere in here, we should find our thumbnail elements. But right now, I don't have any clue how they are called or how they are made up. So I think it's a good idea to jump to the front end and investigate a little bit more so we can find some insights. Back on the front end, I would now pick one of these thumbnails and go to Inspect. This should bring up the Chrome developer tools. And highlighted, we have the image tag that contains the actual image, and it's wrapped into an A tag to make the whole thing clickable. And this A tag is wrapped into a list item. So all these thumbnails are basically an unordered list of thumbnail items. If this confuses you, you might want to watch my video on HTML. This will make things very clear. But actually, I was interested in finding out the CSS classes of one of these list items. And if you don't know what a CSS class is, I also have a video on CSS. So I think we're getting to a point where this channel starts to make some sense overall. And for now, we could pick the one that is called product-single__thumbnails item. And we would copy this to our clipboard. And as we jump back to our theme files, we can now search for this CSS class. And right here we have the list item. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can read this better. And the list item is right here. It contains the A tag to make it clickable, and further inside we have the image tag for the actual thumbnail. And you could see that this is rendered in a for loop. So we do this for every image in the product images, which makes sense. And yeah, that's basically how this works. Now we need to find a way to identify what color a certain list item belongs to. And this is exactly where the image alternative text comes into play that we previously defined in the product editor. So we will add a data attribute to that list item, and maybe we could call it data-thumbnail color. And the value should be equal to the image alternative text. And this is some liquid code, and we have access to this image object because we are looping over every image in the product images. And in very modern or the most recent version of Debut, you might see this in a slight different way. There is a for loop that loops over every media object in the product media. And then you would also need to adjust this to media.alternativeText. For better understanding, let me quickly show you what the output looks like on the front end right now. And after a quick refresh, we could inspect the thumbnail list again. And now you would see that every list item has a data attribute that is called thumbnail-color, and it contains the color that this list item belongs to. And the cool thing is that we are not only able to tell what color a certain thumbnail belongs to, but we could also select these list items by their data attribute. And let me quickly demonstrate that in the JavaScript tab. For example, we could select all the elements that have our custom data attribute, regardless of the value, and this would return all the 12 thumbnail items. Or I could narrow this down even further and say the data attribute should be equal to, let's say, blue, and then this would return only 4 of the list items. And we will make use of that very soon. In the next step of our journey, we will now start to write the logic to actually filter the thumbnails. And mainly we will work in the theme.js, which contains most of the JavaScript for your theme, and you can find it in the assets folder. And before working in here, it might be a good idea to duplicate your theme just in case anything breaks. Not that this has ever happened to me, but it's always good to have a backup in place. In this file, I will now search for the keyword variants, because this will bring up any code related to the variant change events. And here we have slate.variants, but what I'm actually looking for is a function that is called onSelectChange. You could also directly search for that. And in my video on implementing these color swatches, I explained this function very much in detail, but for now, in a nutshell, we could say that this gets executed whenever the user changes one of the product options, and then the variant is retrieved from that options, and based on that new variant, the page content, so the images, the price and whatnot, is updated. And we will follow the exact same pattern, so we will implement a method that updates the thumbnails based on the given variant. So if we scroll down a little bit, we will find the actual implementation of these methods, because here they are only executed. And you can see here we have the update images function, the update price function. And I think it's a good idea to add our function right on top. We could name our new function underscore, let's say, filter thumbnails, just to stay coherent with the naming convention, then colon. And this should be a function that takes the variant as a parameter. Then we have curly braces and a comma at the end. And in here we can now define all the code that makes up the function. But in order to make things easier for you to understand, I will now just add a console.log statement, and I will log a text that says thumbnail updated, and I will also log the variant that is passed to that method, so that you can get a very good understanding of what this object looks like. And by now we only implemented the functionality, but we never use it anywhere. So I will copy the name of our new function and then scroll back up to the part where all the updating is done. And maybe in between the image updating and the price updating, we can call our new function this._filter thumbnails, and we will pass the variant that just has been selected. And then we can save this. And after another quick refresh on the front end, you would now see that whenever I change one of the product options, our new function gets called and we log thumbnail updated to the console. For now, this is just a text. And we also log the variant that was associated with that change. And inside of that object, we have a ton of information on that variant. So for instance, we have access to the variant ID, the variant title, the price, the compare price, but maybe most important, we get some information on the featured image. And that's also why it was important that we assigned a featured image to any of our variants. And in here we can see the alternative text that says blue. So we now know that we have a blue variant selected. All right, so now the time has come that we can actually implement our new function, and we no longer need this debug statement. So let's remove it. And the first thing I want to check is if the variant featured image is available at all. So I will write if variant.featuredImage is not null. And I also want to make sure that the alternative text is available. So and the variant.featuredImage.alternative text shouldn't be null either. Then I want to show all the thumbnails for the selected color. But for now I will just add a comment. Show thumbnails for selected color. And otherwise, so if we can't uniquely identify what color has been selected, else we just want to show all the thumbnails. show all thumbnails. And now we have to implement the logic for this, and then the filter method should work. Okay, so let's start with the lower half of that function. And in order to show all the thumbnails, we first need to select them all. But we know that every list item in that thumbnail list has the data attribute data-thumbnail-color, because we previously defined that in the product template. So we can select all these elements by their data attribute, data-thumbnail-color. And then I want to show all these items. Easy as that. The upper half of that function will now work in a similar way, but we need to be a little bit more specific because we only want to show the thumbnail items that match to the selected color. So the selector could look something like data thumbnail color equals to red, and that color value has to be pulled dynamic. So we will create a new variable and call it selected color. And we get the value from the variant featured image alternative text. And with that dynamic color value, we can now build our dynamic thumbnail selector. So let's call it thumbnail selector. And this should be equal to this one right here. I will put it in single quotes. But now I want to replace this hard-coded color value with our selected color variable. So I will break the string right here and add our new variable in between. And with that dynamic thumbnail selector, I can now select all the thumbnail images that match to the selected color and show them. Show. And now we are almost finished because we have a function in place that can make the selected thumbnails visible, but actually we never hide any of these. And I think the easiest way is just to copy this statement down below, and we will add it to the top of our function and then just hide all of the thumbnails. So when this function is executed, all the thumbnails will be hidden, and in a fraction of a second, the selected ones should be visible. So let's test this on the front end. And after another page refresh, you can now see that all the thumbnails are visible. And only once I start to select a different color, they will get filtered. And when I select the black color, which has no featured image assigned to it, then all the thumbnails become visible again. And the only thing I would adjust right now is that they get filtered on an initial page load. So let's hop back to the theme files. And actually, this is fairly easy to implement. I will just grab our function call from above, and I will bring it to the initialization of that page. So we scroll up a little bit further. And I think it's right here where they say slate.variants, and they initialize the container, the product, and here they grab the current variant. And down below we can call our self-made filter function, and we will pass this .current variant instead of the selected variant. And when I save this again, you should now see that these thumbnails should get filtered on page load. So let's give it a try. And this seems to work fine. Perfect. And with that, we have another project finished. I really hope you found some value in the video and maybe you learned something new. I'm always open to any questions and feedback down in the comment section. And if you haven't already, you can subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future content. And then I really hope to see you in the next video. Bye.